So I think, SMEs are completely central to what we do at OakNorth. They're really at the heart of the business, and it's really born out of the idea or the premise for OakNorth was born out of the negative experience that our co-founders Rishi Khosla and Joel Pellman had in trying to secure debt finance to scale their previous business, Copalamba. About 4 years into that business, they were profitable, had very good cash flow, great client list, but they couldn't get a loan from any of the traditional banks. It had to be sort of on those banks' terms. So we'll only lend you this amount, you'll have to draw down on these dates, we'll only lend to you if you can secure it against these assets. So what we've tried to do is build a proposition that's really fit for purpose for today's generation, as you say. So looking beyond real estate, for example, there might be businesses who don't actually own a physical property, but they do have other assets. They might have plant and machinery, they might have intellectual property, stock, debtors, they might have alternative assets like art. So one of our clients, for example, is an art gallery, and we have security against 4 of the paintings. Another one of our clients is a cafe chain here in London, Notes Coffee, and they have a couple of sites around the corner from where we're filming. And they have a huge roastery where they actually roast coffee beans and then they package them up and they sell those coffee beans to other cafes. So that's another sort of revenue stream for them, but it's also a very big asset that they can use as security. So it's about sort of going beyond what has traditionally been used, which is real estate, and saying, for today's businesses, what other assets can we look at? And obviously intellectual property, when you think about tech companies, that's going to be huge. It's not something that's as evolved here in the UK versus somewhere like the US, but it's an area that's definitely going to be growing, and we're looking at that a lot more as well. At OakNorth, we feel that the real pain point for SMEs is in access to finance and lending, specifically in that sort of growth SME stage. So if you look at the startups who are typically looking for loans of tens of thousands on average, up to maybe 100 or 200,000, pretty well served. In the UK, you've got the funding circles, you've got the iWalkers, you go further afield, Cabbage, Ant Financial, On Deck, the list goes on. And then when you move to that next stage of growth, where you're actually a profitable business, perhaps you've taken equity to actually get the business off the ground, and now you're looking for debt finance to scale, and you don't want to dilute because you've proven your proposition. But unfortunately, traditionally, the options available to you are still quite limited. As I said, we'll only lend to you, but only if you have real estate to secure the loan against. We'll offer it to you on these terms, you to draw down everything on day one. We're not going to offer you, covenants or structures that will work specifically for your business. And that, just a bit of lingo there, but I think the point is that for businesses, it's sort of an off-the-shelf solution typically. And then on top of that, we're not going to tell you if you're, we're not going to keep you up to date in the process, and we're not going to tell you if you're successful in securing the loan. You might not get it for typically sort of 2 to 4 months to get a no, and 4 to 6 months to get a yes is sort of anecdotally what we hear. So that's, when you think about the opportunity cost of that and having to wait that long, it's extremely detrimental to businesses. So I think there's a huge opportunity in the finance space, and obviously that's what, in the access to finance space, that's what we're focusing on, and then trying to fix that problem not just in the UK but globally as well by partnering with other banks. And so that's really interesting, because in the UK we're obviously a FinTech that's doing it and lending off our own balance sheet, and then outside of the UK we're a FinTech that's partnering with other banks to help them do SME lending more effectively. Bigger banks have the scale, right? So if you want to access the largest number of customers as quickly as possible, then partnering with the biggest banks makes the most sense. That being said, that can typically take a very long time. I was reading an article from, I think it was American Banker in the US, and they were saying that the average onboarding time for a FinTech with a traditional bank is sort of between 2 to 3 years. So if you think about then the impact of that, that in the short to medium term, it's it probably won't be that substantial. So what we do is, obviously, as I said, outside of the UK, we are licensing our tech to bigger players, but also smaller commercial banks as well, especially in the US, because it's obviously completely regionalized. So you've got 7,000 lending institutions across the country. So those really vary from quite small local regional banks all the way up to sort of the very global players that you'll know. But we also partner with other FinTechs. So if you look at our partnership with Monzo, for example, on the savings part of our business, we offer the range of savings products. We offer FSCS protection, or Financial Services Compensation Scheme protection, up to about £85,000, and those are offered through Monzo's marketplace to its 2 million customers. So they benefit from being able to, open an account with a a competitive rate, certainly much more competitive than they'd get if they left their money in a big five account. They get the 24/7 in-app customer service that Monzo offers. They get to have everything in one place, just in that one app, rather than having to, if they were to do it separately, I mean, they would get a better rate if they come to OakNorth directly, but they don't, we don't offer an app, and they would have to go through our website, and then they'd have to go through Monzo for their current account. So for customers who want the convenience of having it all in one place. So that's one example of a partnership that we've done with another FinTech, and the benefit there is that, like us, they're new, nimble, pretty flexible, and they're also very hungry to get things done as quickly as possible. I think it absolutely should be part of the new FinTech ecosystem. I mean, you're starting to see this a little bit more now. Maybe that's been driven for the wrong reasons by the RBS remedies package, but obviously that's pushed SMEs to the top of the agenda. And I think that will hopefully spur some new innovation. Certainly we've seen some good partnerships coming out of it, for example, Tide and Clearbank. But even if you look, I mean, since 2010, when the first new banking license was granted to Metrobank, there's still only been a handful that have come out focused purely on SME propositions. The majority still seem to be focusing on the retail side of things. So I'm not sure that it's sort of top of people's agendas quite yet. I think, though, that more are sort of waking up to the benefits of it, and the fact that actually if you can get an SME to switch to you, they will be a lot more loyal. You'll probably be able to cross-sell a lot more products to them. And then there's a chance that certainly those business owners and the employees who they employ potentially could be good retail customers for you as well. So I think it's something that is getting higher on the agenda. I'm not sure it's quite there yet. Should it be part of higher in the ecosystem in the future? Absolutely. But even if you go back to the RBS remedies package example, that's a 775 million fund, and only 40 million of it being allocated towards SME lending. The rest was being put towards fixing the problem with current accounts, which in our view just isn't the biggest pain point for SMEs.